When people told Reddit their past, their stories, explained themselves with Reddit stories, foretold the future. Not really. But foretold the future with Reddit stories. The best place by the monitor was kept for the Reddit teller. Welcome back to your cozy spot by the screenlight. Today, I have some new tales to impart with some interesting outcomes. Today, I'd like to go into a category of Reddit that is known for the title itself, Best of Redditor Updates. The story stems from one known as Lucy Aria Rose, titled, I Shot My Stalker Tonight. I would like to note that the original poster is actually, it's Mrs. Steal Yo Cat. She posted it herself 10 years ago and has since deleted the account. The story, however, has made its way back, right into our laps, for me to tell you today. For the past 6 months, I have been relentlessly stalked and had threats against my life made from someone I dated for a month. It started with phone calls, upwards of 45 to 50 a day, 50-page text messages, and him showing up outside my house at 5 a.m. When I wouldn't comply or feed the negative attention, I began to receive threats, claims that he would murder me and get away with it. All he had to do is flee the country, telling me he shouldn't have to force me to be his friend or give him another chance, or else. Every time I blocked his number from contacting me, he would then call me from a different one, try to pretend to be other people or have his friends, or sometimes even random strangers he'd ask on the street. I once scared an unsuspecting guy half to death after informing him that the person who had just told him to call me was actually stalking me, and I sent him proof. He ended up calling the police on him. He fled, of course. After about 2 months of that, I was evicted from my apartment building due to my neighbors no longer feeling safe because of his looming presence. I then applied for and was granted a TPO. A few days afterwards, I received a picture message of the note the sheriff civil had left on the door of my stalker's den residence with a message taunting me. What are you trying to do? Was so stupid. And a restraining order is just a piece of paper. So ultimately, he just ended up avoiding the process server, and simple as that. I was not being protected at all. May 31st of this year, I relocated. This did not deter my stalker. He vowed to find wherever I moved and to threaten that if he couldn't find me, he would be able to find my family, and then proceed to send me a map of my mother's home, whom he had never met. I received a message from a woman claiming to be my former landlord, letting me know that I owed a balance on my account and to avoid late fees, I needed to pay the amount, which I could do with the link provided in the message. Turns out it was my stalker pretending to be a woman, and the link turned out to be a tool used to grab the user's IP address when you click on the link. Upon this discovery, I changed my phone number and began to systematically dismantle any trace of an online presence I once had. This action only seemed to anger him, and before deleting the profiles outright, I would attempt to block him from contacting me. Each and every time I blocked one, he simply created a new one and proceeded to contact me as if nothing had happened. 12 different Reddit accounts, 9 different Tumblrs, 10 Instagrams, 3 Meetup accounts, 4 Facebooks, with which he changed his location to that of my hometown and proceeded to add nearly everyone from my graduating class in high school, and even 3 Duolingo accounts and MySpace. Yes, MySpace. Remember that one? I then received an empty package from him, addressed to my former residence with the declaration, "Addressed correction requested, do not forward." I'm assuming he thought the post office would adhere to this and his requests and return the package to him with my new corrected address on it. Mid-July, he created a profile using my photos and likeness to threaten my family. When I didn't respond, he proceeded to post semi-nude pictures of me on the profile in an attempt to blackmail me into speaking with him. I did not, and contacted Twitter to report the account and have it removed, which they eventually did on August 21st, 2014. I awoke around 8 p.m. to vigorous knocking and ringing of my doorbell. I look out my window to see who it is, and I was horrified. My stalker was there. I called the police, and of course he fled once again. Over 7 separate police reports filed. This incident was followed by threatening emails from my stalker demanding that I meet him somewhere, or because he had found me, the next time I would wake up to gunshots, and that if I didn't, he would first taser you and R-word you in the ass using your boyfriend's blood as lube. This past Sunday night, I woke up at 6:45 a.m. to the ringing and banging again. I proceeded to record him on the video while I was on the phone with the police. He fled on foot once again, and I was hit with the same hoopla from law enforcement.
Well, we can't really do much because technically at this point, he's not doing anything wrong.
Then why does he flee, I wonder? I obtained a TPO again, but I have no solid address for this dangerous person, which is why I'm in dire need of a private investigator to assist with finding said residence so this person can be served. I hope that you might be able to refer me to someone who might be able to assist me. I've developed insomnia, depression, anxiety, and paranoia. I'm completely isolated. I'm 22 years old and I have no social life anymore. I have no friends. I've become a shell of my former self. I faced eviction and lost a job because of this man's behavior, and I don't know how much longer I can survive. There's actually so much more filler that he has done to terrorize me, but for the sake of this already lengthy post, I tried to condense it. I have proof in the form of recordings, event diaries, and copies of all of his threats, interactions, and attempts to communicate, and would be more than willing to email them to show that I'm not lying. I'm in LV, if that helps at all. The next part of the story involves OP actually talking to some comments on the post itself. Some of them ask for the video. Some of them go into it as OP was sweet enough to say that, as pathetic as it might seem, that Reddit and the Imgurians have seriously been the only source of comfort and human interaction she has seen for months. However, next, I'm going to go into part 2. To discuss with part 2, an image description. A photo of the slightly open door. The chairs in front pushed to the side. Black paint, possibly, is covering the side of the door that has been busted in. Arrows, most likely from a crime scene unit, are stuck to the door, pointing to individual spots. I'm writing this, staring at the mess the police left for me, in a bit of a fog. After 6 months of stalking and threats against my life, my stalker finally snapped and decided to kick my door in and make good on his promise. Out of fear, the past month I had began sleeping with a chair propped against my door to give it a few extra precious seconds in case of emergency. I shudder to think how different things might have turned out had I not barricaded the door. I awoke around 1:15 a.m. to the sound of the door giving way after one kick, followed by the sounds of my stalker struggling to dislodge the chair while forcing his way inside. I jumped up and grabbed the gun I've learned to do everything, even shower with. I stood at the top of my stairs and fired twice, hitting him in the chest. I hear his scream, his disbelief that I'd stood up for myself. 0 to 100 in milliseconds. I've never been so afraid in my life. I don't know if he's living, but I do know the police have him, and that's what helps the most. For months of him evading the police, I began to question whether he was unstoppable, untraceable. Houdini. He would murder me and get away with it. As of now, I'm in a haze of guilt, surprise, relief, and disbelief. I shook as the canines drag him out of his hiding place under a bush. I survived, where so many people do not. Holy shit. I survived. Now, I know what you're thinking. Best of Redditor updates, right? Well, there's best, and then there's best of the best. And then there's stories like this one where you just wonder, why? This next story is titled, My Husband is Cheating on Me with His Brother. Original poster by Throw RA 45 34 53 6. This one, I will say, we should buckle up. English is not my first language, so sorry for any mistakes. Obviously, this is a throwaway. Okay. So, this sounds crazy, and I know it, but let me explain. The last 24 hours or so have been pure hell for me, and I'm tired, and I cry constantly. As background, we've been married for 5 years, together for 8. Been in an open relationship for 3 years. We're both bisexual, and I'm more than happy that he can explore that side of him with other men, as I'm able to do so with women. We have rules, though. We've agreed that we're going to tell each other when we hook up with other people. So, my husband has an older brother, Marcus, who turned 32 during my absence. They were planning on celebrating together and having fun, drinking, which was fine to me. I wished them a happy time and hoped they'd have fun. To the story, a week ago, I drove several hours to see my sick mother in Korhirk. I left my husband home as he's working from home and couldn't come with me. Also, my Mom dislikes him. He's a foreigner. I texted Marcus to wish him a happy birthday. He didn't reply. I thought he was out drinking and didn't think much of it. But I came back a day earlier, yesterday, than was planned, and I was going to surprise my husband. I entered the house and I heard noises. That variety of bedroom noises. I was confused because my husband hadn't told me that he was going to see someone. I kind of brushed it off, thinking it was just him pleasuring himself and watching, corn. All's good. Whatever. 20 to 30 minutes later, my husband comes downstairs and sees me and goes pale. I mean, white as a ghost. He stares at me, stammers, and looks guilty. At that point, I'm like, there's something up. Not 2 minutes later, his brother comes downstairs, and he has a hickey, several, on his neck. He greets me stiffly, says that he's got to run back home to his girlfriend. My husband doesn't acknowledge Marcus leaving when usually they hug and linger. They're very close, always have been, ever since I met my husband about 10 years ago. What was that about? I asked my husband. He's very evasive. He dodges the question and says that they had a row. I press on the matter, asking what they fought about. Nothing, he tells me. Now irritated, I kept pressing and pressing. Finally, he relents. saying that Marcus cheated on his girlfriend and that the woman he cheated with escaped via window. We have a one-story house, so kind of plausible. When they heard my car, I was suspicious, but I assumed that he was lying about the car thing and he'd seen/heard me in the house and alerted his brother and his mistress. Fuck, I have to reread that whole thing, don't I? He finally relents, saying that Marcus cheated on his girlfriend and that the woman he cheated with escaped via window. We have a one-story house, so kind of plausible. When they heard my car, I was suspicious, but I assumed that he was lying about the car thing and he'd seen or heard me in the house and alerted his brother and his mistress. Marcus cheating on his girlfriend is not fine with me. His girlfriend's my friend too. She's amazing, working the front lines of this freaking COVID pandemic. My husband tells me he has to do some work and that he has a client, which was actually true, so he wasn't lying about that. I was still a bit weirded out by the whole thing. Marcus lives alone, so why was he hooking up with some random woman in our home? Later last night, I feel like something's off. Normally, my husband would be very excited that I'm home, and every time I've been somewhere, he's usually really romantic and initiates sex. Now, nothing. He's really quiet, reserved, and nervous. When my husband takes a shower, I went after him to wash my face and noticed that he had 2 hickeys on his chest that he tried to cover up when he saw me. I feel sick to my stomach and decided to go through his phone. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have done that. I was 100% sure he had a guy over too. I'm still reading the conversations between him and his brother when my husband comes from the shower. The conversations are explicit. The reality hit me like a ton of bricks. I asked my husband what was going on and that why is he flirting with Marcus? He tells me it was a joke, just joking between brothers, and it sometimes goes too far. I didn't buy it. I went to sleep because I was exhausted from the trip. I was woken in the middle of the night by my husband crying his eyes out in our living room. So I went to ask him what was wrong, and he told me everything. How he has an on and off relationship with his brother. They started having sex over 10 years ago. First, it was mutual masturbation, and then it just escalated into sex. He says it was because of their religious upbringing and that he knew nothing about sex or sexuality until we started dating. My husband or Marcus are not in contact with their parents. They had a falling out about 6 years ago, and I was told it was because Marcus was dating a person of color back then. Well, now I'm thinking they got caught, and that's why their parents disowned them. I haven't slept since that night, and I don't know what to do. I can't look at my husband, and I don't know if I should tell Marcus's girlfriend about this or what. I want to leave my husband, but at the same time, I don't. Should I contact their parents and ask what really happened 6 years ago? Is this something a therapist could handle? Is our relationship salvageable? Cheating is not something I'd break up over, but I can't shake the slimy feeling I have. My husband had sex with his brother, and yes, they have the same parents. They're not stepbrothers or anything. Of course, I've been thinking about the relationship my husband and Marcus had when they were younger. Like I said, they've always been really close, but I should have seen the red flags. I should have known. Something weird happened just before we started dating, and now I'm thinking it wasn't as innocent as it seemed back then. I'm lost. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I can't talk about this to my friends or my parents. I'm starting to think about killing myself. I wouldn't feel this way. I'm making an update now, and I'll return sometime tomorrow. A few things happened recently. I asked Marcus's girlfriend to come and see me later today. It's nearly 1 a.m. here currently. She agreed and said, "I think I know what's going on." My husband said he's not coming home. He tells me he's at a friend's house, but I know he's not there because I contacted the friend. I'm assuming he's at Marcus's place. I'll contact a therapist first thing Monday. I have written an email and I'll send it early Monday morning. My husband told me a bit more, but he claims it all started from him. I don't believe it. I think he's lying to protect his brother. Marcus left me a voicemail saying that he could explain the situation. He did explain it, telling that it was the one time only, but he didn't know that my husband had already told me that it's been going on for over 10 years. It all started when my husband had just turned 13 and came out as bi. I feel sad and angry. I drove over to Marcus's house because I wanted to yell at him. For those claiming my husband is gay, it's not true. He came out before anything sexual had happened with Marcus. I texted their parents and said I wanted to talk to them and said that something bad happened, but their boys are all right. I'm not all right. I asked a friend to come to our house an hour ago and I showed this post to her. She's livid and says that we have to get my husband to therapy like some kind souls told me. The story continues in late July. After I posted my original post, I contacted a therapist and got some treatment for my husband. I decided not to file for a divorce. I also told Marcus's girlfriend what happened. She knew already, which was such a betrayal, in my opinion. We're no longer friends, and I haven't seen Marcus since July. Unfortunately, in the middle of August, my husband committed suicide. I'm writing this depressed, lonely, and so angry. The law is clear on situations like this. Consensual incest is okay, so there's nothing I can do anymore. My husband died, and his secrets and the truth died with him. There's no evidence that Marcus ever art him, even though that's what my husband told me. He didn't get a chance to tell his therapist. I'm alone. So alone. All my friends left because they think this was somehow my fault. My husband's parents are not happy. I wrote in my previous post that I was thinking my husband and Marcus got caught. They did. Their parents told me as much. I don't know what else to say. Thank you for the kind words and the support I got. I wish that things had gone differently. The story continues in November 9th of 2023. July 2020 seems so far away now, after everything. August 2020 is when my husband unfortunately decided to end his life. October 2020 is when I last wrote an update. It's been well over 3 years now, but after all this time, the grief remains. I miss my husband dearly, and I'm devastated that he isn't here anymore. I've now moved far away from everyone. I'm living in a different country now. I'm happy, I guess. Things could be worse. I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to my initial post. I'm now in a better place for sure, but I still miss my husband every day. His smile, his laughter, his kindness. A lot has happened after my last post. Mainly, Marcus is now dead too. He was drunk, went for a drive, and drove himself into a tree. I was, and am, sort of happy about that. Even though I guess I shouldn't. I have my suspicions that he aimed for a tree on purpose. I can't say for sure, but that's what I think. Anyway, I'll never return to this account. Therapy helped me, but not enough. I'm scared by what happened, and I'd like to spend the rest of my life away from this horrid thing. When I die, I'll be able to see my husband again. I hope he's waiting for me on the other side. Once again, thank you, everyone. It's time for me to finally move forward. Wow. I wish you nothing but the best. And the horrible reality is that sometimes we lose those who we love most. And it's clear that OP lost someone who wasn't just a spouse, but a friend, a best friend, a companion, and a partner. If it's proven that Marcus really did what he did, there's a special place in hell for people who groom or do things like that to kids. And I hope it's painful. I hope it's an eternity of pain. Thank you for joining me by the monitor. And to everyone listening and enjoying this content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to hear more of these stories stemming from tragic to comedic to downright horrific. And as always, see you in the next chapter.